Welcome back to the Ridgeline Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls, with your hosts, David Crane and David Sandana.
All right, Dave, we are back.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So episode 36. Yeah, 36 episodes. That's crazy. But today we're actually going to be talking about an event that you went to over the weekend.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of explain what this event is? We're laughing, but I mean, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna approach this from a different angle.
Okay.
I never believed in Bigfoot.
Episode 36.
That's my preface. That being said, a couple of years back, I saw something in the woods that I believed to be Bigfoot.
Right.
Based on what I saw, how it acted, how it moved away, specifically, like it's the shape and how it was standing. I mean, I told you about this years ago.
So let me explain what I got. Okay, so I get a call. It's fairly late. Dave is hunting. I'm gonna say it was late season. No, we were hunting different sides of the mountain.
I think it was early. It was early season. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
early
and
season.
I was on the east side. I was hunting east side.
This was September.
Yeah, and then
you're hunting the other side of the state.
Yeah. Dave calls. I have service. And he's like, "Man, don't laugh." And I'm like, "What's up?" And I can hear in his voice that something's not right. And I'm like, "Dude, are you all right? Like, what's going on?" And he was like I said again, "Don't laugh." And I'm like, "All right, dude, just spit it out. Like, what's going on?" He's like,
"What could possibly be this bad?"
Yeah, exactly. And he goes, "I just saw Bigfoot." And I was like, "Dude, what the? You saw Bigfoot?" And then he goes on to explain what he saw. So go ahead and explain like what you saw, like that whole leading up to what you think you saw.
So I'm going to just back up a hair further because
okay, go ahead.
We've hunted around Mount St. Helens. Well, I have for 25 years about,
and I've been for close to 12. So
I never had any. I've seen the signs. There's like you drive down 504 and they say welcome to Bigfoot country, and there's all these other tours and stuff, Bigfoot tours or something like that. And I always thought, man, these people are absolutely crazy. Trying to think, there's big feet out here. I've been all over these mountains for years and years, never seen anything. This last season, we ran into that fella who had grown up out there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen some things you never believe."
Yeah. I
couldn't tell you what it was, and he seemed like he was fluent in the hills as well. So anyhow, I've been all over this place. Never considered Bigfoot. All of a sudden, this Bigfoot stuff starts coming on TV. Bigfoot hunters and all this other stuff. And they start telling people like, these are the sounds and these are the signs. And so we were on a hunting trip, and a good friend of mine, he was down this drainage, and I was above him. But these elk would always come out from the bottom, kind of by the mud flow. They would come out through the mud flow into the hill. So we kind of staged ourselves a little bit staggered. And this guy came up from the bottom, like on the radio, he was like, I'm coming up now, just freaking out. I was like, dude, stay put. They're down there. I can hear it. We could hear him like cow calling and stuff below us. Yeah. No, I can't stay down there anymore. And he comes up and he's just like spooked, Bill.
No, yeah.
So
I know this whole deal.
So he's spooked, and he's not a guy that's spooky. Like he's not sitting there scared of sounds in the woods or anything like that. But he said something was down there making a sound that it was very indicative to what they were saying on TV, and it sounded like something that he had seen on TV or heard on TV. So he was out of there, right? Not going to go back. And I called him, I was like, don't be a little sissy, let's go down there. You're ruining the trip and all this other stuff. And he's just not going to have it. So a couple years go by, probably like 6 more years. And I'm going on a late season elk hunt with some friends of mine, and 3 of the guys I'd never hunted with before.
Yeah.
So I was going, it was like they went there on like a Friday or a Thursday, and I had to get there on Friday after work. But I ended up leaving early in the morning and got there. It was probably 9 o'clock in the morning when I got there. Well, I thought I would just drive to this spot, find a spot, go hunt the afternoon, and then meet them back at camp in the evening. when I found this spot, the road, there was like an old road that had overgrown. The branches were overgrown. The entryway, no one had driven into that road because the branches were making it where you couldn't get through. So I was like, sweet, I'm going to park here. I'm going to walk down this road. And I'm going to hunt down this whole hillside for the rest of the day. So I got out of the truck, grabbed my gear. I'm like, as soon as I get out, I'm, kind of check the wind with my face. I'm like, yep, it's blowing right towards me. Perfect. I didn't get any wind checkers out or anything, but I was like, yep, that's perfect. Shut my door quietly. I just held the handle back, closed it, heard the latch. That was it. And then, made sure the truck was locked and all that. Went down the road, and at first when I got through the little bunch of boughs that were covering the entryway, I noticed there's a bunch of moss on the ground. I was like, this is going to be super stealthy. I'm like, this is perfect. Moss on the road. I can see up and down. I can cow call as I go. And there's an occasional stick or leaf that I have to watch out for. So I'm doing like ultra stealthy still hunting. Like I can hear myself breathe through my nose more than I can hear my footsteps.
Like when you're going so slow, your hips start to hurt.
yeah, that's probably why my hips always hurt. My hips always hurt, man. I'm slow. So I go in about a mile, and the road goes to my left, and then it hooks to the right, and it kind of disappears around the hillside. And on this little corner is a landing. I could probably see 80 to 100 yards to that point, and I'm headed downhill. Mm-hmm. So I have like I guess, what do they call that? Uphill advantage. I had a better view, I guess. So I look down for only a second, and I take a step because I was getting into like a little sticky area where I noticed there's a little more sticks, a couple more leaves. So I take a little step, maybe 2 or 3 steps, and I stop, and I could see down the hill to my right and uphill. My left side's uphill. So I look up, and when I look down, this creature standing on that corner. And I've seen a lot of bears.
That was so this is the part that Dave is explaining to me on the phone, and I was like, are you sure it wasn't a bear? Yeah. And then you're like, he's cussing at me. No, man, this ain't no freaking bear, blah, blah, blah. And he's going off, and I'm like, okay, man, okay, tell me what's going on.
I was probably excited at that point. Kind of.
Dude, you were like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of hard to explain only because you want to believe what you saw was what you saw, mm-hmm. and then you're trying, and I'm almost like, are you really seeing what you just saw? And you're like, already, this has been hours after this because he had waited, he went back to camp, like it's late at night, and these things have already gone through his head, like, did I just see what I just saw?
I had probably 3 or 4 hours at camp alone to think about it after. So this creature standing on the corner, down the hill, and I could see it standing there. And it's just standing there, arms like you would stand there. Not at due attention, but just standing. Like if you're waiting at the grocery store. It's just standing there, hands by its side. Literally, like hands by its side. And not like a curved hand. Just like a regular hand. Not like a bear paw. Like those are the weird things where you see. When I saw it was like, for one, I'll say this. If somebody has a video camera rolling and their kids are in the park playing and there's a dog barking or any of this stuff, they're not going to have a Sasquatch just walk by on film. It doesn't happen. Like that sucker, I can't believe I'm even saying this stuff, dude. Like seriously crazy. I had every advantage in that situation. I had the wind. I had all my scent control already taken care of for elk season. I even had cover scent in an area that's filled with elk. I had a mossy road, and I wasn't stepping on any sticks or leaves or anything. So those were all things it was one of those situations where it probably will never, ever happen twice to me.
Right.
I mean, somebody else could probably, have that happen where they find a Sasquatch, but I'm fully adamant. You're not just walking down a hiking trail with 30 other people in the meadow. Here comes happen to be a Bigfoot taking his time. I don't think so. Based off the way this thing reacted when it realized that I was standing there and how it turned and ran was alarming. I mean, it was like, I guess it was a very huge cause for concern, and also like what just happened? Like what was that?
Well, here's the other thing too. For being a hunter, we need to know our game and everything like that. You would really recognize if it was a bear because it would have stubby little legs. in the back. You know what I mean? The hind legs are not long on a bear.
It would have had, all the things you think of. Like I have a little bear thing I could break out, but normally the torso length of a bear and its hind legs aren't proportionate, and they have a weird anatomy to where their arms don't do like this when they're standing. Their arms are bent like this, kind of. The backs of their hands would be visible.
Facing forward, pretty much.
Yeah, like a dog, like this. If it was completely straight, I've never seen a bear with its hands. I've seen a bear do this one time with his hands. Actually, we had a feeder. We had a trail camera up, and we stuck a little dripper, like a little. It was like almost like buck jam or something. We had a dripper, and this was just for trail cam reasons to find out like how many bears were there. And this bear, I have the photo. I dig it out, dude. In the photo, the bear's like all the way up, head straight up, arms by its side, and it's like stretched out to reach for that thing. That's the only time I've ever seen a bear's arms that way. But it was at full extension. So on this one trail cam, we had about 15 different bears come in. And it was just a small amount of, bait. And they were just coming in like crazy. So, the rules in Washington are different. We didn't hunt them bears, and we don't do that now. But when trail cams first came out, before they had these were ran on double Ds. This was, years ago. So that's the only time I've ever seen one with his arms by its side completely like that. But it was stretching out about trying to reach something that was probably 8 feet in the air, and his nose is probably 6 or 7 inches under it. So that's all he could get. Well,
not only that, you took me back to that area. We're scouting for bear. We're on the woods for some reason, and you're like, this is the spot of where its head was when I was coming down the hill, because we came down the hill. It's nice, and we're looking like where the little notch was in the tree, and I'm just like, if that was a bear, it would have been like a world record bear for Washington State.
Washington's record,
because it was like
a big cinnamon bear.
6'8".
Yeah, it was probably
almost
stretched out,
6'10" almost.
With his nose straight up in the picture. I mean, it was a couple.
No, I'm saying where you saw this Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or Yeti, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I would think it was. I told my buddy
6'8" to 6'10".
I told him it was in the middle sixes probably. Yeah, I said it's probably like 6'5". That was my closest average. I mean, I couldn't tell you the difference between like 6'5" and 6'10" from 100 yards, but I could tell you that it was taller than me and similar in size as far as
like body structure.
Yeah, how you're proportionate. It was proportionate to a person if you look at it, and that kind of was like, I thought it was another hunter, and like honestly at first when I first saw it, because I looked into its eyes, and I feel like I looked into its eyes, like I felt like there was a moment there. Like,
that's probably why it was like, oh shit.
Like we seen each other for sure. That was the thing, because I seen him and he seen me. It's a really strange thing to kind of like recap and live back over.
Well, not only that, you said it turned and ran, right? And then it just like did a weird leap. Leaped like it was like trying to like grab onto something as it's like flying off this cliff.
Yeah.
Like you would see like a Planet from the Apes film.
So if you saw any sort of Olympics and you see the gymnast that do the parallel bars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the rings guys. I guess not the rings guys, because they usually have somebody throw them up there and they grab the rings. The uneven bars, they'll do like quick step, and then they'll jump and put their arms up and they'll grab the bottom bar.
Yeah.
Like they're going to grab this bar and hang on to it. That's kind of what this thing did. Because that hill is steep down the back. I mean, it came up the backside and it left the same way. But when it turned, it didn't turn like you think a bear would have. They would go down on their paws and then, have to spin. This sucker did like, I will compare it to like an NFL wide receiver when they'll take like 2 steps, plant a foot, turn around, hands up for the ball. That type of move. I mean, it was like boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's that fast. You're that fast, Dave. It was almost like unreal. It's talking about it now. It's like, I'm starting to get kind of chilly about it. Like I'm not getting, look at my hair on my arms, dude. Like it's sticking up. Like it's a trip. So
insane.
now I'm the wacky host.
So that leads us in to the weekend.
This weekend, yeah.
Yes. What was this event that you went to this weekend?
Well, Let me backpedal. I keep backpedaling.
Actually, you know what?
I didn't plan on going to this event.
Before we get into that, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Hey guys, wrong button. Wrong button on that one. Go ahead, Dave. Go into it. That was the wrong button. I hit the intro button again.
We give them extra love. Yeah, give them some love.
David Crane and David Sandana.
We're back. That's us.
That's us.
So, I haven't been into any Bigfoot things. I'm not like, I don't have, well, I have a Bigfoot.
So what got you into going to this event? How'd you even hear about it? Because I didn't see anything on it until you posted the picture
of me there, right?
Yeah, on our Instagram, and I was like, well, I didn't post that picture. What the hell is Dave doing?
Yeah, right. So I'd been sick for like the last week. Just been having this nasal thing, and so my wife on Saturday, she goes, "Hey, did you hear about this Bigfoot? What was it called? Anyhow, Bigfoot Expo at this bar in Buckley." I was like, "No." It was kind of interesting. I'm like, what's going on here? She said, "There's this place called the Lost Lounge or Lost Lake Lounge or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up real quick because I think it's important, to give them some love. But
well, while you're looking that up, I'm going to hit the right button this time. How about that?
Okay, yeah, give them some love.
Hey, everybody! If you are looking for a game call that is elk, turkey, deer, predator calls, waterfowl calls, we highly recommend PhillipsGameCalls.com. Professional grade game calls made for every hunter. That's right. And Phillips also has some new calls that have come out at the end of 22 and a couple that came out right at the beginning of 23. So if you are looking for any type of game calls, they got them. PhillipsGameCalls.com.
All right. So the name of the place is the Lost Woods Brewery.
Perfect.
And this place
sounds like where there'd be some squatching.
I'll tell you, all the walls are painted with Sasquatches and stuff, and it's very Bigfoot friendly.
So for the people that are listening to this, like we have listeners from all over the place: New Zealand, Arizona, Australia, Scotland, wherever you may be. If you ever come to the Pacific Northwest, you're going to see stickers on the back of cars that have like some weird creature walking on it. That's a Sasquatch. It'll say P&W with some weird thing walking on it and maybe some mountains in the background. That's Sasquatch.
Yeah, Sasquatch.
So that's like ingrained into like the Pacific Northwest. So
it's part of the region.
Yeah,
it's part of actually the world actually. So there's a bunch of history about this stuff throughout the ages.
There is, man, actually over in China as well.
Yeah, they got into all this stuff.
They call it the Yeti.
Yeah. Well, so the Lost Woods Brewery.
Right.
They had a thing on Facebook, and I'm not sure how my wife found it. It was like one of those ads. They probably targeted people in the age group in this area, and we live close there. So she's like, "Did you hear about this thing going on?" And of course, I hadn't heard about anything. So I was like, because I've been down and out, and so I was like, "No, what is it?" She goes, "It's the first annual Bigfoot festival over in Buckley at this Lost Woods Brewery, and I got you a partner to go." I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I told our friend, her husband Matt's coming with you."
Matt, we got to get that guy out, man.
Dude, we had so much fun. Oh my God. It was funny. So, I'm not into Sasquatch. I don't have like Sasquatch paraphernalia. I have, some people have bought me some things over the years because of what happened.
Right.
It's like an experience that you can't prevent. If it did happen to you, there's nothing you could unsee. It's like a car accident. I'm just sitting at the light and these two people crashed in front of me. I can't unsee what happened. And there's nothing I could do to prevent it. It just happened, right? So that's what I boil it down to. Sasquatch happens to you if it does. If you, and I wouldn't say go around believing that you're going to see a Bigfoot, but I'm telling you what I saw was not a bear, and it was very human. And the way it moved, it was like a man.
Yeah, unexplainable.
Even other details too. The facial structure, not looking at, it's hard to speak about this just because it's unbelievable, right? But when you see a bear turn, it has a snout, right?
Yeah.
Like you could tell, like there's things that when it happened, and I was paying attention because if it was a bear, I'm on him. Like that. Now I'm ready to go. Like, okay, so
we have our ultimate number one hit list, and that's killing a bear.
If I seen him jump over that hill, I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to sit here for a couple minutes. I'm going to walk down there quiet, and maybe he's still down there. You know, I'm not just going to do like I did. And I'll tell you how I did in a minute. But when it turned, I recognized that turn was not animalistic. It was like human. And to an extent, it was a human type movement, right? It wasn't a human being.
Human-like, yeah.
Yeah. Its face was not a lot different than our face side profile. Like I couldn't tell if it had like a big nose or from that distance I couldn't tell, but I know it didn't have a snout. And it wasn't like a short-faced bear, you know. It wasn't like a prehistoric bear. But it didn't do anything to make me think it was an animal. Other than the fact that it was hairy, you know, other than the fact that it was in the woods with me, you know, like I was fully anticipating not for that to happen. But when it stood there, I didn't recognize what was happening or what I was even seeing. Like my mind went to this like Rolodex, like flashcards, like deer, elk, you know, like none of this fits, right? You're looking at these things in your head, you're like, nothing fits what I'm seeing here. Very strange. So after it had ran and jumped, it might have been 2 seconds. I realized I just seen a freaking Bigfoot. So I did like every sensible human being. I pulled my 45 out of my holster and I backed out of there. But I didn't go just like, I'm out of here. I was backing up like 10 feet at a time, stopping and listening. I didn't know if he was coming back. Like I was really alert to like my surrounding. I was like, something in my heart was going. I was like, it could be coming back. I'm walking backwards uphill to get away from this thing.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't know what was going to happen next. So I back out. It's probably 200 yards. I'm listening. I haven't heard anything this whole time I'm doing this. At about the 200 yard mark, probably about 200 yards of backing out of there, I felt it's probably safe to turn around and go the other way. You know, that's when I felt like I need to get to the truck. And I got to the truck, and then I knew one of my buddies were going to be camping. I drove straight to the camp. I parked my truck there. It was like 2:30 in the afternoon, and that was it for the day. I was done. I waited for them to come back to camp, and I just walked in there, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "You guys, I can't even know how to tell you this." And one of the guys sits down. He's looking at me all close, and I was like, "I seen," and he goes, "A freaking Bigfoot." And I was like, "Yes." And he looks at his other buddies and like, I told you, I seen a Bigfoot out here. And that was a freaking trip. And that was a guy I never hunted with before.
Yeah.
And, you know.
That was Elsa's buddy?
No, that was Tom King's friends. Well, Irk was there. Tom King was there. Those are the two guys that I knew going into it.
I'm surprised Tom hasn't seen anything. Because
those guys have been all over there.
That dude lives in the freaking woods.
Well, they shed hunted there. They would ride their bike 25 miles a weekend.
Well, I mean, he's been doing that since we were kids.
Irk sold his shed collection, got $25,000.
What?
Yeah. That's how many sheds they picked up out there.
Dang, that's dope.
So his garage was completely filled. I mean, he had a 2-car garage stacked to the roof.
Yeah, didn't he lose one of those in a divorce or something?
No, he had to pay her half of the $25,000.
Look out, guys!
Yeah, if you have a shed collection, put that shit in a trust, because your wife can be entitled to half of that value.
Yeah,
those are facts. Yeah, hashtag you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, I went to this thing with Matt. It was just.
But let's take a break before we get into that.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. All right, everybody, and we are back. So, Dave, now that we have the rundown of the story, you and Matt end up going to this Sasquatch festival.
Yeah, the festival. So that was how my encounter took place. Mm-hmm. Like pretty much, I don't think I left anything out. The festival was cool because it was more like a podcast. There was this other podcast, paranormal podcasting. It's called like U.S. Phenomenon Podcast or something. They were basically doing a live podcast Q&A. They had an anthropologist. They had a Native American guy from Alaska. He lives here. He's not in the Muckleshoot, but he has permission to like look on the Muckleshoot land for like Bigfoot signs and stuff like that. And then they had this other guy named Bob.
There's always some guy named Bob.
That's his name. That's how he introduced. That's all everybody knows. Bob. He was probably works for the CIA. He's there as a spy or something. So this guy named Bob, he was there. And so they had the panel of people inside the podcast, and they went over all sorts of stuff about Sasquatch. But as I was sitting there, let me ask you this, though. Have you ever been in our hunting area and seen like a cedar tree, maybe 3 or 4 inch cedar tree, like stuck in the mud or stuck in the ground with the root ball in the air?
I don't know.
It just like half the root ball or anything? You never noticed that?
Not that I've. Now that you've said something, I'm probably gonna see them, but no.
Well, I've seen them, and it wasn't like I never looked at him like, oh, that's kind of weird. I just thought maybe some logger was doing something, right? Apparently, that's like a Sasquatch sign that they were looking for. Like these guys look for that shit. And I was like, as they're saying, I'm like, holy crap! I've been marching through Sasquatch territory for a long time.
Weird.
It's super weird.
The only weird thing I've ever seen is a coyote with his head stomped in the ground with his tail like coming out. That's the only weird thing I've seen.
Well, initially, I didn't think that was weird. I just thought, oh yeah, because you see like loggers will take a rock, a big old boulder, put on a stump, and like they'll do stuff with their equipment.
Yeah.
It's nothing. You're just like, there's always weird stuff out there. Somebody's kid will dink around, and I've seen some strange stuff, but nothing like you would think like a crop circle type weird. So this is like one of those things that they're searching for when they're doing like Bigfoot, what they call investigations, and they go looking for stuff. This is like a sign they look for.
Well, it'd be like any other sign that we'd look for elk or a bear or whatever. I mean, if there is a Sasquatch out there, they have to leave some type of sign of something, right? I mean,
so the during this whole thing, so that stick, that little tree being upside down, they have like pictures of big trees upside down like that, like some pretty good sized ones, and they're claiming a Bigfoot did it. But I'm looking at those trees, I'm like, that's like a big old tree, dude. Like, you know how strong these big feet things would have to be? Like, I mean, it's like probably 700 or 800 pound tree pounded into the ground. I'm thinking like just off your body weight alone, you can't generate enough force to pop that thing into the earth. I'm like, physically, and like the world, how math works and gravity and weight. And I've seen them do pilings, like when they do docks on some of these homes we work on.
Oh, yeah.
They got a 300-400 pound thing they're lifting 40 feet and ping, ping, like for hours to try to get a pole into the mud, So I can't imagine a Bigfoot taking a tree the size of a pole and just sticking it down like they're playing corn, That's basically what it looked like. I was like, there's no way. That looks like an old mud flow or something must have happened there. But I can't say. I definitely don't believe that was done by Bigfoot. It's just a weird thing. But I have seen small things like that, like small trees where we're at.
So, like saplings and stuff get ripped out of the ground and put in there.
4-inch diameter ones, just small trees, mainly cedar trees.
Oh, okay.
Like 4-inch cedar tree that's just stripped, like there's no branches on it or nothing, and it's just tucked in the ground and the root ball's in the air. So these are like probably dead already. And I don't know why they'd be upside down in the mud like that, but in that soft mossy ground, they're tucked in there. So see if you see any of those next time. Anyhow, I'm not trying to preach about finding Bigfoot, but that's what they were talking about. But when they mentioned
we're going to go out squatching?
Maybe somebody will take us up on it. They were talking about all this stuff. So we go to the thing, and they were talking about this is what we look for. These are the sounds that they make, and all this other stuff. And I wasn't trying to get into that. I was just mainly there because I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. We'll get this information, see what this is all about. They started talking about the some of the things they've seen, the places they search, just some of the other reported things people have seen, right? And so, some of them, right off the bat, I'm just like, this is bullshit. I know that it's highly unlikely that these people saw a Sasquatch in the fashion in all the surrounding environment that was happening.
Oh, so did other people come up and tell like their Sasquatch story?
Some people, there was like 2 people that had seen Sasquatch before. But it was like they were driving to work early in the morning and it crossed the road type thing. That's the extent of the encounters.
I would think you would need to be absolutely out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, these people are like
something
living
like that to happen.
Some of these people live like in Buckley, and there's some backwoods, some Monastash drainage is out there, or not Monastash. There's the Mowich drainage. So Mowich is pretty wild land out there. So they were driving.
So further out,
It's
410,
further
like,
out.
yeah.
410 Buckley Highway coming South Prairie, way in the back. They said they seen some. There's two people that said they saw Sasquatch cross the road on their way to work. One of the guys was actually pretty convincing because he was. One guy had all the Bigfoot paraphernalia. I mean, he had Bigfoot tattoos, Bigfoot shirt, Bigfoot hat. He was like all about it. I mean, here's my encounter. This is what happened. I got all the Bigfoot shit now. I was like, I'm pretty convinced he saw something that made him change his lifestyle. I'm not trying to change my lifestyle.
Or he wants a lot of likes in his social media.
Yeah, something. But I'm sure.
I don't know, man. Like for me, I'm the type of person like I wish it would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to see some crazy shit. Like I want to see something that like I can't explain, like what I just saw.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you can explain it. So you could explain it, but are other people?
But other people are going to believe you.
Yeah, and it doesn't really.
Honest to me, that's the other thing about it. Mm-hmm. So it'd be nice just to be like with your buddy and be like, "Did you just see what I just saw? Like, did you just see that?"
You would have to be like. It could happen if you were sitting there. I'm kind of surprised more people in tree stands don't see Bigfoots or anything like that, or trail cameras.
How about people glassing for hours on end? You're sitting there for 12 hours. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But
I've seen deer and clear cuts that you couldn't see with your naked eye, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, people that are out glassing and spotting and doing stuff like that. Even like bird watchers, man. Like people just looking at mountainsides, looking out, crazy birds and all this other stuff. Like they didn't see something,
So just like hunting, right? You can be in a spot and you're like, I'm going to spot something here, and you put your little scope up, and you're in an area where there's just not any animals that day. That happens a lot. Like you're like, I spent all day on this hill, didn't see nothing, right? But then you're just driving out of there in your truck, and boom, deer across the road in front of you.
Yeah,
That
happens all the time.
Yeah, or a whole herd of elk comes popping out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I sent you a video of 100 or so elk the other day that crossed road in an area where you said you hadn't seen an elk there hunting this whole early season. Well, just down the road, 100 of them are going out right now together.
Well, here's the thing. So with that little ordeal, our elk season is the only reason was because I couldn't go out to the back because we had that problem in 21.
Mm-hmm.
We hunted the front side for 2 or 3 days. We didn't see anything, but we went all the way back to the back corner, and we're in elk everywhere. Yeah. So, I mean, it was more or less just I couldn't get back there because I had to bike in. Mm-hmm. It was just BS of where we go hunting, you have to pay to play, and I missed out on the lottery draw for a motorized pass, which was straight BS.
So I don't have the formula to finding Bigfoot or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, that just happened.
So at this live podcast, though, what were they breaking down? Like, was it a lot of like, were you just kind of sitting there like, yeah, right? Or did some of the stuff kind of like make sense?
There was probably 3 or 4 things they brought up that were, I was like, oh man. But they were talking about just like the history, like how ingrained in different cultures the Sasquatch is. The Native American guy, he's from Alaska.
Dude, you should bring up the iconic California video, because that's like the most iconic video of Sasquatch was in
like the 70s
down in California,
or the 60s.
Dude, it's in black and white. I don't know.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring it up here. So they were talking about all these things.
So most of the time, if anybody is, into Sasquatch or squatching, as a lot of people say up here, and trying to find Sasquatch.
So let me show you here. Here's some videos.
Number 15, Independence Day sighting. This footage was apparently filmed on Independence Day.
Make that big. There you go.
Walking into frame, looking at the camera, and then picking up a baby before running off into the
So that looks totally fake to me.
Yeah, that looks kind of CGI. This is the thing too, like modern day video, this looks like it might be at the San Diego Zoo.
Let me tell you something about Sasquatch, bud.
Yeah, that doesn't look real at all.
What's really weird to me about the video,
movement can also be seen from the baby as it hugs and pushes away from the adult. Some people have pointed out that they could see facial movement from the adult Bigfoot.
Yeah. Get out of this one. This one, that doesn't look good at
Well, I'll
all.
tell you what. There's gonna be another one here in a second. There's like 20 minutes of this stuff. Um,
No. Go to the iconic, like the one that was down in California.
hold on. Here's another one.
The creature stands up on two legs like a human would, but also appears hairy and ape-like.
Yeah,
What
but
is it,
so
on a
does
dog
this film.
camera?
What is that?
It's a dog with a camera on it. See, that dog's not barking or nothing. You know what I mean? That dog would have lost his shit seeing that thing.
Or
right
it would
there.
have ran away. Yeah.
Dogs don't run away. They chase bears and everything. It would have been defending. Like, there's obviously a person with it, right?
Prior to this being captured on film,
Yeah. Get out of this.
Yeah.
This is all fake.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That dog to me would have been. Let me see if they have it in here. This one looks interesting. See, that's
No, that's fake. That was like a big old black blob.
dude.
What are
Hold
these?
on.
Oh, that looks like it's down in Georgia.
That's a
or
swamp.
something.
quadrupedal clip.
This guy's hauling balls.
Yeah, but that thing came out from the whole other area.
That looks like Luke's property, actually. That exactly looks like Luke's place.
A student named Nathan Wiley and some friends were in the forest on Prince Edward Island filming a video.
So that's
for
BC.
school.
Yeah,
So
no-
they had a lot of things from BC. They were talking about BC.
I know,
a lot.
but that came out from the other side. Like he came running from the left. That thing came from the right. Skip this.
I don't even know why he would have been.
This
like,
is all.
it
this is-
seems like that thing would have just tucked into the trees.
Right now, we're
dude.
showing you all the fakeness because everything is like a giant black blob that you can just edit into something.
This one here is in a bird nest. Apparently, it's like.
Baby eaglets peep in the nest when the creature suddenly pops out.
Oh, there is birds in the nest. What are we looking through? We're looking through a hole in a bird nest?
No, it's over there.
Oh, it's on the right, top right. Gotcha. Yeah, that seems weird. Let me see if we can find something better, man. This is obviously.
They were shooting, but when they later watched the footage, they noticed something looking like a Bigfoot running in the trees.
Where is it at? Oh, the top right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
see how it's a giant black blob? Like even bears don't even look like that. Like it's
Yeah,
like
but I'll
very
tell you one thing,
distinct
bro.
black.
I'll tell you one thing right now. That Bigfoot wasn't going to be there after the first shot.
Yeah, okay.
So that Bigfoot is going to be
Get
going
out
up
of
that
this.
hill.
Do I need to take the computer from you? Get
Dude,
out of
I'm
this.
trying
This
to-
is all fake.
I'm trying to help out here, and I'm pointing out that I'm not a Bigfoot person, but these videos, these are like just capture your attention type thing. I'll try to see
That
if we can
is
get
super fake.
iconic Bigfoot.
It'd be video.
Oh, so this is the
this
one.
one right here.
Yeah, this is the
This
one.
is the one yeah.
So this is the original footage. This is original footage from Sasquatch, 1967. I don't even know where this was filmed.
Well, I want to say this came out being fake.
I don't know.
But this is
But
the
this
one. This
footage
is
right
the
here
one.
is-
This is the one that you're always going to see when they're talking about Bigfoot, or if you ever watch Bigfoot Encounters or something like that. They always go back to this film, and then there's always been like, so what did they do? They took a basketball player, they put him in a suit, and he couldn't do the same movement as what this video was. So there's people that say it's fake. There's people that say it's real. You know, like this is the whole thing about Bigfoot, and where we're trying to get at is Dave saw something, I didn't. You know what I mean? Can I discredit what he saw? I physically can't because I wasn't there. And Dave is Dave is like a brother to me, so I'm like, dude, if that's what you saw, then I have to believe you.
Yeah. I wouldn't sit here for this many years and have my wife. Oh my God, my wife. She's, imagine being like, guess what I saw, babe? And you just make up some wild story. Like you saw Bigfoot, right? But you saw him at 7-Eleven or some shit,
Yeah.
Like that'd be unbelievable. Completely.
But
You're
did someone put something in your drink?
Those Mike's Hards are pretty hard nowadays. So, but it's not outside the realm of possibility to see one where you would probably likely to see one if they did exist. If that made sense. Like you would expect if you were going to find a Sasquatch, to find a Sasquatch where they exist. Not in some obscure backyard or at the firing range. Like these things, My unprofessional opinion is that they have senses that are pretty highly alert. You know, that's probably why they're not seen very often. But when they are, it's just a weird circumstance. You know, like what happened with me. Everything was right. I was there looking for elk, but everything was right going into it. I got out of the truck, the wind was right. I got into the road, it was covered with moss. There was occasional sticks or leaves, and I was still hunting slowly. And it just happened to happen.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there was no, if I would have had my dog out there being on a hike looking for mushrooms or whatever, that I would never saw that thing. It wouldn't have happened because the dog would have been running around, spinning circles, or maybe barked at something, or you know, I wouldn't have been being as careful. I would have, you know, who knows if you're out there mushroom picking, maybe you're smoking cigarettes. All of those things, you know, they prevent you from seeing game, and these things live where game live. So they have senses at least equivalent, I would assume.
Well, if not better. I mean, if you've been out in the woods long enough, you start smelling things that you probably wouldn't smell when you came from the city.
But when you go back to town, you smell everything from town.
Yeah, you're just like, oh my gosh.
Like car exhaust 20 miles out. I mean,
burgers.
Like, food for sure. You know, and so
like when they're out in the woods and they're just, you know, have their regular smells, they're not, you know, when you present yourself into the woods, you're trying to mask all that smell. I mean, they're going to be able to pick you out pretty quick, just like any other game animal. That's
what I would think. So, the festival was cool because I got to hear, like, this is my first time being around anybody that had anything to say about Bigfoot other than what I've told people. And I don't just go around telling everybody, but now apparently everybody's going to know. But it's funny because I'm not going to go around telling people outside of this interaction.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to tell people in the woods, hey, man, watch out for Bigfoot. He's out there, blah, blah, because I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hunted this place for a long time. One encounter. Didn't even realize that some of these things that they're calling signs at this convention I had been seeing for years down there. So, they'd had an anthropologist. He was talking about like the DNA specimens and different, they were talking about mitochondrial DNA and all sorts of stuff that I was like, okay, I know what mitochondria is, but I wasn't like really interested in that. When the Native American guy started talking about like his childhood growing up in Alaska and the totems that they had and how they would have some of them that would have Sasquatch in the totems that were really old totems, not like anything they just made. You know, who knows if they're 100 years old or whatever, but old beyond this video.
Yeah.
These people were carving these things in all over the world. Like they carved these things. So I can't deny other people's experience either. And historically they've had these experiences, you know? So I'm not a Bigfoot denier, but I will say that a lot of people make a lot of claims and I'm not making any. Just telling you what I saw.
Yeah.
And I believe that what I saw was Sasquatch. And so anybody who's been in the woods can, you know, tell you what a buck is from a doe. You know, when you see a buck, you're like, oh, that's a buck. You know, you see a Sasquatch, you're going to be able to tell. Like, that shit was a Sasquatch. Like, you know, it had everything that tells you that it's not a bear.
Right.
And you could easily confuse maybe a bear. If you're not very familiar with the outdoors, maybe you would... they got the lights on us. Maybe you would confuse a bear with like, oh, it had to have been a Bigfoot because it stood up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there's other things too that you're going to look for that you could tell, you know?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have, yeah. And, you know, maybe some new people, I've seen people call elk deer. Like I seen a big deer, man, the rack was, you know, 6 foot long. And, you know, I was like, hey man, that was an elk. Oh, I just started hunting or whatever. I'm new to the woods or, you know, they'll say all sorts of stuff. But, yeah. That's my story about Bigfoot. But the convention, you know, I told them what I saw and they seemed very interested. They were it was the most detailed story, the longest, you know, as far as encounters go.
So did you do that like one-on-one or did you do that a part of like
dude, it was a total trip.
Their thing.
It was part of their thing. It ended up being part of their thing. Because they had people up there doing like an AA type meeting like, my name's Bob and this is my experience with Bigfoot and blah, 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 you know. So they're looking around. Like the one guy, when he said something about Bigfoot, I was like, they said, has anybody here seen Sasquatch? And I raised my hand and one guy kind of perks up, you know, looking at me the whole time, doing his little head like a bird, looking like I'm a worm or something, going to pick me out of there. And
looking at you sideways.
So 2 people got up and shared their experience and it was kind of like, yeah, I was driving to work and he crossed the road, changed my life, you know. So my buddy Matt's like, get up there, Dave, get up, go do it, man. It's gonna be cool. He recorded it. Go up there, Dave. You know, he's gonna try to make a Facebook video out of me or something. He's like, get up there and tell them what you saw. You know, nudging me, and they're like, is anybody else up there? And the one scientist guy's like, come on up. So I was like, fine, I'll tell my story. And then everybody's looking at me. I walk up there and tell my story. And I told him, I was like, I'm not a Bigfoot guy. I'm not here because, you know, I believe Bigfoot's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't have the sticker on my.
I don't have no
on the
tattoos and big feet, and I don't even know the date when I saw it. It was just like one of those days. It was opening day of elk season in 2016 or 17. That's what I can tell you. I didn't care to document all this stuff. I did call the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Yep.
And I did tell them about it. And they marked it, and they had confirmed that they had other people reported.
Yeah, because that was like the one thing I told you, like at the end of our phone call, I was like, hey, did you call Fish and Wildlife and let them know what's going on? You're like, oh yeah, I already did that. And they said that there's multiple encounters out here.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. Okay.
Yeah. So Department of Fish and Wildlife is fully aware that they have encounters and people have said they've seen this type of thing. I shared my story and dude, everybody's freaking stood up applauding and stuff. Yoo-hoo, yeah, you know, all this clapping and stuff. I was like, this is kind of strange. Maybe I'll go around town sharing this to everybody, you know. But yeah, I shared that story. Everybody was applauding, and I went and sat down.
Well, I mean, you're in an area where people came to hear.
It was the highlight of their night. I'm telling you,
Sasquatch stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like a ghost story. One time around a campfire. So it was a cool experience, man. Some people came up after and were asking questions, and I was like, all I could tell you is what I saw. You know,
Yeah.
And I told them, I was like, half the stuff you see or hear is to me is not legit, because there's the only reason I believe that thing even happened to me is because of all the things I've highlighted already, not because of any sort of like miraculous thing. Just it couldn't see me, hear me, or smell me because it was coming up the backside of a hill and the wind was blowing in my face and I was walking on moss and I had scent control and I was a mile in. You know, it was just the circumstance, man. Just led to that thing, and so yeah, man, that was a trip. But it was super fun to go there. You know, I didn't have high expectations of anything. I wasn't looking for anything. It was just, I figured I told you tonight earlier, I was like, we got to talk about this because it's so fresh in my mind. It was funny to go through, and, you know, in how to tie it into hunting. You know, you got to keep your eyes peeled. You know, you never know what you're going to see. I don't ever plan on seeing another one. I'm not even concerned about seeing another one. I'm not out there. I'm not even scared to go back out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, the very next year, maybe it was 2 years, you took me right to the spot.
Yeah.
Like, yep, this is where I saw it. And Billy can't even go in the area.
Yeah.
He's like, drop me off right here. Like, why? Because around the corner, that's where I heard some.
Yeah, I heard some. Yeah, it's tree knocking. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's just, I thought at first, I was like, this is kind of spooky. But out of all the years I hunted down there, seeing this thing one time and how it left, like if it had came towards me at all, I was going to be out of bullets pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't going to be, I wouldn't have died with my gun full of bullets. You'd have been getting shot at first thing. I mean, even this Bigfoot or no Bigfoot, me or him, he's going down. You know, if I had a weapon, hands on hands, he's taking me. No questions asked.
Well, with that, let's before we wrap up, let's hear from a couple of our sponsors. This section of the broadcast is brought to you by Burpaw, burpaw.com.
Use Ridge15 at checkout to receive a sweet discount. Archery hunters, listen up. If you find yourself in the heart of King County, do yourself a favor and stop in at Rock Creek Archery, located in Tukwila. They have everything you need if you're just beginning to the sport or you've been shooting for 20 years, even an indoor shooting range. Or check them out at rockcreekarchery.com.
All right.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. You know, we just got our video up. This is something that I've shared with friends of mine, closest people to me, and it's not some made up story to where I would go around to bars embellishing and talking about it. This is you know, personal experience, and I would just be aware when you're out there. You know, if you had everything right, it could happen to you if you're in the area where they're at the time. You know, I don't know how to boil it down any clearer than that. It's not, and I know there's people out there, big names, that, you know, make claims about things and how, you know, they haven't found any dead specimens or any, like, definitive things, right? But there's other reasons why too. You know, I've dumped a whole deer carcass hundreds of yards from our camp, and the next morning all the bones are gone. You know, and then when nothing buried that thing, something took it off.
Yeah.
You know, and we've had hikers missing here where they haven't found none of the clothes or nothing, and they've later found like a small fragment of something. You know, so the critters out here will take a pile of bones, even mice. You know, they'll take bones away like nothing. Beavers and everything else with big square teeth, they'll chew a bone up quick. So there's reasons why they haven't found things. You know, elk die in the woods all the time. You hardly ever see their bones.
And who's to say they don't bury?
Yeah, they could. You know, that's the other thing too.
Bears and cougars do.
Well, cougars bury their kills. I mean, why wouldn't? I mean, Sasquatch could easily bury. If you've seen a video and that was actually a Sasquatch, which I don't believe was, carrying its baby, it's burying its baby. It's not going to just like not stop carrying. And especially if they're related to humans. You know, if they're like human-like, right? Mm-hmm. There's got to be something there. But yeah, I mean, well, no one can tell you if you saw it with your own eyes that it doesn't exist. And I'll leave mine right there.
Yeah, and Dave, I really appreciate you sharing this story, you know, to all of our listeners and the people watching on YouTube. You know, I know it wasn't easy for you to do, but I know that you just went to the Sasquatch like convention thing over the weekend, and it was fresh in your mind, and you're like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna go with it and tell my story. So I appreciate that, and I hope everybody else does as well. Yeah.
You know, truthfully, Dave, I thought it was fun. I think this whole thing is fun. Having that happen, it wasn't like, it didn't feel like anything when it took place. It was almost, you don't even know what you're thinking about when it happens. It just, you realize later, like, this just happened.
Right.
And so, to me now, it's like just something that happened, man. It's like, you know, walking in a bird poop lands in your hand. Like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? You know, like, you don't spend too much time worrying about it. It just something took place. And so I don't have a problem sharing the story.
Well, that's cool. Well, I hope everybody liked it. You know, episode 36, it's going to be, you know, Bigfoot or Squatch or something, you know, I'll come up with something clever.
My buddy's dad has a nickname for Sasquatch.
What's that?
I can't say on there. Other people probably know what it is.
Probably super funny.
It is.
But yeah, so if you're wondering where to watch this video, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can watch it on YouTube on Ridgeline Hunting. Also, we have Instagram, Ridgeline Hunting Podcast, and also Ridgeline Hunting. And yeah, man, this was a good episode. I hope everybody likes it. And, you know, hopefully here soon we will have Dirk Durham on.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yep, Dirk Durham. So, yes, episode 36, we'll be squatching it. So, everybody have a good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.